Everyone, welcome to a very special free agency edition of the Jim and the King NFL podcast. I'm Jim. Sitting on my box to the left is Denver Dave. Sitting on my box to the right is Punk Raider, and we're here to talk about the NFL. What up, boys?
Hello.
Good evening.
We're all self-isolating, being responsible citizens of this world. Punk, finally we've got you on the podcast, man. Thanks for joining us.
I predicted the whole COVID-19 thing, and I've self-isolated for the whole season. So,
last time I saw you, you were clean shaven. That's how long it's been.
So much to go through today, then, guys. I wanted to start with obviously our teams because they're the most important. Let's start actually, as Punk hasn't been here for the entire season, we better start with those now Las Vegas Raiders, Punk. And let's start with the big news, of course. You've now got Marcus Mariota has turned up. A deadly duo now of quarterbacks you've got.
A fine backup quarterback, Mr. Mariota.
Is he backup? He's not going to be challenging them for the starting spot.
Well, he probably will, but, let's be honest. Who knows? I mean, Carr could get traded out any point. So, I would expect him to be going in as a backup, but you never know with Gruden and Mayock. Who knows what's going to happen in the draft?
I think it's a similar position to where Tannehill was last season. Tannehill was very much going in there with an eye on the starting spot, ended up getting it. And I think it's the exact position that Mariota's going to be in. He's going to go in looking for...
I think you're right. I think he will go in thinking, I've got a chance here of being a starting quarterback again. So, it's definitely going to be a competition in camp. Gruden likes competition anyway. So,
the irony of that is he was the starter in Tennessee when Tannehill went there as backup. So, I mean,
exactly. He knows what he needs to do, doesn't he, to win the job? So,
100%.
It's a low bar as well. So, good luck to him.
Let's be honest. Carr is still a very, very decent.
He's a very competent NFL quarterback. Most teams would be lucky to have him.
He won't lose you a game. He's probably not going to win you many games, but he won't lose you any at all.
He wins a few.
Not on his own.
Oh.
I think Darren Waller won a lot, and your defense last season won a lot as well. I'm not going to go as far as to say that he hasn't won any games at all. But last season, the majority of the games, he wasn't carrying.
I'm not saying he's Joe Montana, but, he'll win as many as he loses.
Well, I'm glad you're saying you're, tempering those expectations, Punk.
Joe Montana's a bit high. He's probably not even Joe Flacco, but...
Ooh, you've just released Flacco, haven't you?
You'll probably sign him by
we'll go back for Antonio Brown, knowing us.
Twice bitten. Well, you mentioned Darren Waller there, Dave. It brings on to the other Titan they've just brought in, and that's old man Jason Witten, who's returning for his 17th season.
I get it. I think it's a great signing.
I don't get it. Why? What?
I think it's a great signing. You're not paying him very much money.
You better not. He's
under $5 million.
Your franchise is incredibly young, and you need to install an identity.
I don't need a third tight end that's costing us £4 million, and
you probably don't.
Older than me.
What he's going to do off the field is going to be more important than what he does on the field. He's there to build.
He's not going to do anything. I can guarantee you, he'll be there for training camp. Maybe last week one, and then it'll be, I don't really fancy it. I'm going to retire. It's just a complete waste of time.
How much does it cost, Punk, for them to install a stair lift at the training facility as well? I mean, you're down already on the money.
Yeah, exactly.
Is Jason Witten actually any older than us?
Pick up a 4th round tight end, 5th round tight end. He's going to give you as much production as Witten is. I get what you're saying about the leadership side of things, but I just don't see it with Witten. He's a Cowboy through and through. He's always just wanted to play for the Cowboys. I just don't see that he's going to bring that much to the Raiders.
I think, as I say, it'll be more off the field than on the field.
We'll see. I mean, it might be. It might be that he's going in as a part-time coach or something. We just don't know. But
let's do one more big move then for the Raiders, and that was that they made a bold move last Tuesday. They signed former Los Angeles Rams linebacker Corey Littleton. That's on a 3-year deal worth up to $36 million. So are you happy with that one, Punk?
Nice work if you can get it.
Well, yeah.
I think it's a good signing 3 years ago. I'm not so sure about now, but we are desperate at linebacker. So even if he only plays half the snaps, it's still going to be worthwhile. And linebacker is one area where we are severely lacking.
Yeah, I mean that's been the case for a few years though.
Yeah, but if you look at the way Mayock and Gruden started drafting last year, you can tell that linebackers are going to be pretty high on the agenda this year. Linebackers and wide receivers. So
yeah,
that's the two main areas that we're going to be targeting certainly through the draft. And I'm all right, we'll do a bit through free agency as well, but we need to completely overhaul the linebackers. So having Littleton in there, it makes sense. He's a bit, he's younger than Witten, obviously, but he's got experience. He knows what he's doing. He should be able to pick up the scheme quite quickly. Just hope he can raise his game from the last 18 months or something.
Have you still got Burfict? That's like a genuine question. Have you really?
Yeah. No, I mean genuinely, if he's reinstated by the league, then yeah. But I mean, I can certainly see us releasing him.
He has been reinstated already.
I don't. You're probably more up to it than I am, but yeah.
So, I mean,
in theory, then we've got Burfict as well. So
there was the other lad, Kowatski. How do you pronounce it?
Fitkoski.
Him.
So pronounce it any way you like. It doesn't really pronounce it Bob.
Well, it probably matters to him.
Well, maybe, but he's not here.
No, and you are, unfortunately.
Have you come around then, Punk? Have you come around to the idea of it being the Las Vegas Raiders?
I've it's the Raiders. It doesn't matter if they're in LA, Oakland. I first started supporting the Raiders when they're in LA. They weren't even in Oakland, so it's for me. It's very easy to kind of switch. I just call them the Raiders. The fact that we've got a nice, fancy, shiny new stadium in Vegas is just a bonus because it's in Vegas.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. At least it made your peace with it. So let's talk about the Broncos then quickly, shall we, Dave? Obviously, the big news was that Andy Yanovich, your favourite player in the whole world, was exchanged to the Cleveland Browns for a 7th round pick in the 2021 draft.
Yeah. I mean, he's my favourite Bronco. It's not too much of a surprise because the Pat Shermer offense typically doesn't use a fullback. One thing that is a bit of a surprise, though, is normally, I mean, the 49ers and the Ravens both use a fullback pretty well. And normally when that happens and two teams utilize one position very well, it normally sets a trend. And a lot of other teams think, okay, we're going to start using fullbacks as well. That seems not to have happened yet. Whether it will or not, I don't know. But it's a bit of a shame. I mean, as you say, he's my favourite player, but not a complete surprise. I just wish we'd got more for him.
Well, yeah, it was just a giveaway. But there have been some bigger moves for you. Obviously, you picked up defensive tackle Jarrell Casey from the Titans for a 7th round pick. I mean, come on. That guy's made the Pro Bowl in each of the last 5 seasons. He's had 51 sacks in his 9 years with the Titans. That's got to be a steal, surely.
It is. And on our interior defensive line, we have right now nothing. Like, literally nothing. Everyone's contract's up. So, I think Shelby Harris is pretty much guaranteed he's not going to be signing. I mean, the last ever thing he did was the interception against the Raiders. So, I mean, that'll go down in history. It was brilliant. Derek Wolfe, we're still not sure whether or not he's re-signing. We've put a 2nd round tender on, I can't remember who it was, someone else. But yeah, so we need our help on the interior defensive line without any shadow of a doubt. So there's absolutely no doubt that we will be drafting a defensive tackle at some point.
And you've lost Joe Flacco, as Punk mentioned earlier. You've waived him with a physical, unable to perform designation. And it comes just after you've reached a 2-year agreement with ex-Detroit Lions quarterback JDTD, Jeff Driscoll.
Yeah, Jeff Driscoll.
Traded the 4th round pick to get Flacco back in 2019, but he hasn't posted a QBR over 90 since 2014 when he won the Super Bowl. So is that an upgrade at backup quarterback for you?
I mean, Flacco was never really going to be there anyway. So it's depending on what we're really looking at is Bradley Allen versus Jeff Driscoll. And I think Driscoll gives us more off the field. I mean, we've said in this podcast previously that Driscoll did okay when he came into the Lions last year. I don't think he did too bad. Let's hope we don't need him. That's the only thing I can say. Let's hope he never takes the field for the Broncos. I really hope that. But he'll do as much off the field as he will on it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And also, you've finally lost Chris Harris, I think, isn't it?
We have. The son of a bitch has gone to the Chargers. So, yeah, that is what it is. I think the other big signing for us is Graham Glasgow on the offensive line. We picked him up on a 4-year deal. I think in terms of guards, we've got the 2 guards. One, obviously, Dalton Risner, who we picked up in the second round last year. Glasgow this year. And if we can keep Juwan James fit on the offensive line on the right from the right tackle, it makes us much stronger. Connor McGovern's gone at centre, so we still need to pick up a centre as well, which is a bit concerning that we haven't done that in free agency yet. But offensive line has been an issue of ours for quite a while. It looks as though we're finally starting to address it with bigger names.
Fair enough. Excellent. Okay, let's have a look at the Steelers then. So we picked up Super Bowl winning guard. What?
Look at the Steelers.
Yeah.
Oh, no one cares about the Steelers. Steelers are old news.
Says the Raiders.
That's coming from a Raiders fan.
Yeah.
Huh?
Pipe down,
That's
Grandad.
coming from a Raiders fan.
We've got a nice new stadium and a nice new city. We've got loads going on.
You've got Derek Carr and Marcus Mariota for quarterbacks.
You've got a stadium that looks like a Rumba Hoover. That's what you've got.
Wait till you get on the inside, mate.
I will never go there.
I want to talk about Stefan Wisniewski. Okay, he just signed as a guard from the Chiefs on a 2-year deal. He won the Super Bowl in 2017 as well with the Eagles, and was a second-round pick for the Raiders in 2011. So he's been around some of our podcast teams. I'm quite happy about that because we saw Ramon Foster announce his retirement earlier on in the week. The guy played 11 seasons for the Steelers, played 160 games, 145 starts. He was a starting right guard in Super Bowl 35. And that's another $4 million off the salary cap. We've done a lot of restructuring because, as Dave will tell you, we were right on the line of having no money at all. They've restructured Ben's contract, Vance McDonald. They've released people like Chicolo. Javon Hargrave's gone to the Eagles on a $39 million contract for a 3-year deal. That includes $26 million in guaranteed money. So we've lost our nose tackle. But yeah, we've managed to get quite a lot of money off the books because we franchise tagged Bud Dupree.
That was what I was going to mention to you because you mentioned previously that you were happy for Bud Dupree to go.
I wasn't happy, but of all the positions, it's one that you could probably replace relatively easily. I think nose tackle's harder to replace because there's just not that many people out there to play the position. At least as effectively as Javon Hargrave did. I'm annoyed that the Eagles have got him, to be honest, because I like Javon Hargrave a lot. He's underrated as a nose tackle.
Yeah.
And I've got hope that Bud Dupree plays as well as he did next year, because it's been a progression for him. It's taken him 5 years to get to where he should be when we drafted him in the first round 5 years ago.
Yeah, I think traditionally the Steelers have always had good pass rush, and that's somewhat gone missing in previous years. So you'd expect it to continue.
Well, our defense is pretty much set now, so I think we'll hopefully address nose tackle at some point in the draft, maybe 5th or 6th round.
Well, you say the offense is pretty much set, but you're expecting
defense.
Oh, right. In terms of offense, I was very surprised you haven't picked up a backup quarterback yet.
Well, yeah.
Huge downfall.
Yeah, well, I don't rate Mason Rudolph, as you know, and Doc Hodges only slightly more. So I guess that we're going in the draft.
Nah, you're just hoping Ben doesn't get injured.
Well, that as well.
I mean, yeah. Again, pick up a good backup quarterback and hope you never see him. That's the main thing. Obviously, you've got Cam still out there.
The Cavs are going to Pittsburgh. What's up?
No, I'm assuming that's not going to happen. But what about Trubisky? I know how much of a Trubisky.
Oh, get out. Get out, Dave. You're just fishing
that would
now.
be amazing.
No,
Bortles is still available.
I would take any quarterback in this year's draft over Mitch Trubisky. So, any quarterback.
As I said, Blake Bortles is still available.
Oh, now you're talking.
Yeah.
See, I wasn't thinking about that. But
AFC Championship game, got to that. I mean, you got destroyed, but you got there.
Yes, thank you very much, Dave. All right, so let's move on. So we got the Chris Harris has gone to the Chargers. And then for the Eagles have picked up Darius Slay on a 3-year, $50 million extension that includes $30 million guaranteed. The Lions get a 3rd and a 5th round pick in the upcoming draft as compensation for it. So it's a big move. Darius Slay's been itching to leave Detroit for a while now, and finally got his move over to Philadelphia, who desperately needs some cornerback help.
Well, they picked up a couple of safeties as well, didn't they?
Yeah,
Cloud and Jalen Mills as well. So you can definitely tell that they're kind of rebuilding that defensive secondary.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised they haven't picked up any receiver help though. That was a bit of a shock because at the end, when it came to last season, they didn't really have a huge amount left.
Well, I think the problem was everyone got injured at the same time, didn't they? So Jeffrey and Jackson and both, missed at least half the season, and they were just playing with nobodies and people off the street by the end of the season because they were just getting decimated every week.
I'm pretty sure they've got rid of Nelson Aguilar though. So again, that does put them one down. There's no doubt they'll be drafting a wide receiver at some point. There's absolutely no doubt they'll draft a wide.
I'm sure they will. I'm sure.
And probably a linebacker as well.
They probably want some help on the O-line as well. With Peter's now 497 years old, and
I'm pretty sure he's retired now, Punk. I think
he
actually has retired now.
Has he?
Yeah.
Is he genuinely retired?
Yeah.
All right. Well, there you go then. Big hole to fill.
Yeah. It's about a 400-pound hole by the looks of it.
Exactly.
I was going to make a joke about filling big holes, but I'm not going to.
Don't do it, Dave. Don't do it.
No.
Okay, let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about the other teams that have been actually moving players around. Okay.
Yep. No worries.
Cool.
Yep.
Welcome back, guys, to part 2 of the Jim the King NFL podcast. This is the free agency self-isolation edition with myself, Jim, Denver Dave, and Punk Raider. In the first part, we talked about the teams nearest and dearest to our hearts and the Eagles. The next part, we're going to go through the big moves that have happened in free agency over the last week. We're going to start in the NFC with the Arizona Cardinals, who pulled off the steal of the free agency period by taking DeAndre Hopkins from the Houston Texans. Let's just have this right. Arizona gave up David Johnson and a 2nd round pick for a 2021 4th round pick for DeAndre Hopkins and a 4th round selection this year.
Yeah. And if you'd suggested that trade to me in fantasy, I would have told you where to go.
Yeah, I tweeted that the other day. If someone did, if that was, then you'd be talking about collusion right there.
Yeah, absolutely. There's nowhere on this planet you're swapping DeAndre Hopkins for David Johnson and then just swapping 4th round picks.
The thing is, it's not even because a lot of the time when you look at this, you think, okay, this is because of cap space. It's because one player's got a huge amount of cap space. The player with the less value's got virtually no cap space. So you'd expect DeAndre Hopkins to have 15, 20 million maybe, and David Johnson to have Trop and Sapney. But David Johnson's is like 10 million. It's not a small amount. It's a decent amount he's got.
He got that good contract, didn't he, after he had those 2 years where he was like the leading rusher.
And a lot of it is
and
guaranteed.
He got paid for it.
And I know that DeAndre Hopkins wants a new contract. I get that. That's fine. But there has to be some residual value in the fact that you're trading away one of the best wide receivers in the game.
Oh, he's top 5 without a doubt.
Oh, I mean, yeah, he's probably top 3. It's insane. I mean, Twitter exploded when this happened, and I could not stop laughing. Kareem Jackson, who used to be a cornerback now, so used to be a cornerback for the Texans. I think he tweeted something like, "Texans have lost your mind." And it was insane. It was so funny. Pure entertainment. It was amazing. Bill
There's no
O'Brien.
point talking about contracts, though, Dave. It's not about money. It was never about money.
But that's the thing. What is it about? I don't understand what it's about. I just don't.
Well, I was listening to Brett Coleman, who is a Texans fan, and his take on it is that DeAndre Hopkins is quite an outspoken member of the team, a bit of an alpha in the dressing room. Bill O'Brien models his entire life after his old head coach, Bill Belichick. And so he wants to be the only person in the room. He's already the GM and the head coach. And any sort of dissension, he wants to kind of Alex Ferguson them out of the building. So
that's fine.
That's probably what happened here, is that it was his way or the highway, and he just wanted to get rid of him and picked up the phone. You can get rid of
someone who's a pain in the arse. There's not a problem with that, but you still have to get some kind of value for them.
Oh, there's no justification for what they got for him. Absolutely. I mean, the Cardinals pulled their pants down over that one. I can't believe that if he just phoned around the league and shopped DeAndre Hopkins, that people wouldn't have given up first-round picks for him. So
if they'd got 2 seconds, you kind of go in, okay. I mean, it's low, but okay.
Nah. Look at what Amari Cooper went for.
1 first.
1 first, a second, and a fourth. So, there's no way on this planet DeAndre Hopkins, if you shop him around, is not getting you a first-round pick.
But, well, first of all, they did shop him around, they said. Secondly, yes, it was a first, a second, a fourth, or whatever it was, but picks came back from the Cowboys, so it worked out that it was basically a first and a bit more. But I agree, 100%. He should have gone for a lot more than that. But part of it is also that Amari Cooper wasn't earning a huge amount, so they got away in that first year with reduced earnings. I can't really get my head around why they've opted to trade him in the first place. I know, yes, he's a diva, but do you know what? So what? That's fine. Allow it. He catches everything.
All wide receivers are divas. It's just the extent of their deviosity that,
when you're as good as him, you catch everything. I mean, he's not Antonio Brown level. He seems.
He's not even Odell Beckham level, let alone Antonio level.
No, in terms of being a pain in the arse, he's probably on par with Des Bryant. You know what I mean? He's not Diggs, for example, and that's the biggest kick. Less than a day later, Stephon Diggs went for a mortgage. He went for, 7 picks or something stupid like that? It was insane how much Diggs went for.
Yeah. It was so Diggs went for a 2020 7th-round pick in exchange for a 2020 first-round pick, a 5th-round pick, a 6th-round pick, and a 2021 4th-round pick.
Yeah,
and he's insufferable.
Yeah. Oh, he's a pain in the arse. He's an utter pain in the arse.
Imagine him when he's cold. Like really cold.
Exactly.
Buffalo cold.
As far as I know, I don't ever remember seeing DeAndre Hopkins doing a piece in the Dallas Gazette or whatever it would have been, having a massive moan about his quarterback or his coach or anything like that.
No, and he's not all over Twitter 24/7 like Diggs is. You don't really hear too much about DeAndre Hopkins. You hear bits and pieces, but it's not a constant stream of diva actions and throwing his toys out the pram. So it really is a head scratcher.
And the thing is, if you're looking at the Arizona wide receiving core, I mean, it doesn't really get much better in the league. With Fitz signing a new deal, they've got Hopkins. I think they still got Kirk.
Yeah. And Isabella as well. He didn't really feature last year.
Speedy little receiver. He used to be track and field as well, so he'd be a good deep threat. So imagine a deep threat. One side you got Hopkins, the other side you got Isabella. It's insane. So they've become much more dangerous overnight. Yeah.
Assuming their quarterback doesn't regress in year 2.
I mean,
charming that. I mean, Come on, have some faith in
Well,
him. He
no,
had a
it,
really good
it
first
happens.
season.
It happens a lot. You know, if someone comes
It
out and
does
has a good
happen.
first season, then quite often they won't improve or they'll regress slightly in year two. You know, there's plenty of quarterbacks that have done that over the years.
It's true. I mean, there's a lot of quarterbacks who I hope that doesn't happen to, Drew Lock being one of them. But if you look at their actual draft picks they've got, there's more than enough capital there for them to be available to go and pick up someone on the offensive line, which is going to be a big part for them. In terms of salary, they've still got 20 million left in salary as well. You need to save about 11 million for draft capital. So they've probably still got 8 or 9 million. So they can go and pick up a decent guard, for example.
I mean, the Cardinals now are pretty set. They just need to work on both lines, O-line and D-line. I know they picked up
Jordan Phillips,
Devondre Campbell, didn't they, for their linebacker slots?
Yeah.
And Devon Kennard as well. But yeah, exactly. But they really could do with some O-line help so that Murray's not getting killed, and then also edge rusher and general D-line. So
they're picking 8th in the first round. I would put money on it. That's an offensive liner.
Yeah, that would be a left tackle or something.
There are 3 really top tier ones as well coming out, aren't there? So
yeah. Then they've got 1 3rd, 2 4th, a 6th, and a 7th.
They're in good shape.
There you go.
They're in good shape.
They are. They're in good
tough
shape.
division, but
and if people above them, I know we're talking a little bit draft here, but if those above them start trading in and out, and there's 3 or 4 linemen who they're interested in, they'll trade down. If there's still 3 or 4 on the board, trade down, get more draft capital, pick up a lineman, and then someone else as well. Because in the linebacking core and the secondary, they probably need a little bit of help. But they're in a great position, really, really great position.
Let's move on then to one of the other massive bits of news, and that was that old man Tom Brady has finally left the New England Patriots. It was a 2-horse race apparently between the Bucs and the Chargers, but the Bucs won out, and they've offered him a 2-year contract worth a fully guaranteed $50 million with an additional $9 million in incentives. And the Bucs can't even franchise tag him after the 2-year period. Spoiler alert, they won't need to.
He won't last 2 years at the Bucs.
Exactly. What do we think?
There's nowhere on this planet he's there for 2 years.
The dynasty, though, in New England is finally broken up. What happens next?
What, with the evil empire or
both of them?
Bucs?
Let's go with New England first. What happens in New England?
Well, New England will go out and find a quarterback from somewhere.
Yeah,
just to hold the fort. And someone average.
Josh Rosen,
Andy Dalton, someone like that.
I don't think they'll pay Dalton because Dalton's going to want about 13 or 40 million. I don't think they'll pay that. I think it'll be Stidham will still be there, and I think he's got something about him that reminds you of what typically they keep. Just someone who'll toe the line and be happy. Someone like Brian Hoyer, for example, who they've had as a backup. I don't see Stidham being a starter. I think they'll bring someone in, but I don't see it being a stud. There's a lot of people saying that they will be bringing in like Cam again. Not going to happen.
No, can't see that.
Too much of a runner as well. I don't see it being Bortles. It just feels like they're going to make a trade or they'll draft someone.
They have. They're in rebuild mode. They have to be in rebuild mode. There's no way.
I don't think they are in rebuild mode. When you play for the Patriots, one of the most expendable positions, really, is probably quarterback, because a lot of it is already decided for you. If you give someone a basic game and say, okay, you've got 3 progressions to make each play, do X, Y, and Z, and you'll be fine, they'll do it. I mean, they've had an offense where the ball doesn't travel more than 8 yards anyway. So I don't think it's too much of an issue to bring in a quarterback and say, throw to your tight end who's 5 yards away, or throw to Edelman who's running the slant. I mean, it's easy.
The ultimate FU would have been, the ultimate FU would be to bring in Jameis. If Belichick wants to get somewhere without Brady,
I can't see that. And I can see Jameis staying at the Bucs and just going, yeah, all right, I'll take a year off and
they can't pay him both.
Check and
They can't afford
No,
both.
right, but if Winston's quite happy to just pick up his check and sit on the bench for 1 year, because that's all Brady's going to be there for, because all of a sudden, halfway through week 1, they're going to realise he can't throw it 40 yards down the field to Mike Evans. And so they're going to have to throw their entire game plan out the window. So, you know, it's...
Well, no, Jameis Winston's a free agent, isn't he?
Mm.
I don't think, because last year was the last. It was the last year of his deal last year. I think he's a free agent.
I thought they picked him up on a 1 year extension.
I don't think they have, because they franchise tag Shaq Barrett, so it definitely wasn't there. If you use a franchise tag, you can't use a transition tag, so we know it wasn't there. I think he's a free agent. In all honesty, I really do. I don't think they're going to have to trade for him.
I think it'd be a shame if someone doesn't pick him up though, because he's thrown 30 touchdowns last season.
Yes,
Well,
but
the Chargers
Over 30.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chargers would be a good place for him, I think.
Yeah, I think the Chargers missing out on Brady's hurt them. It's come out very recently that they made a formal offer to him and actually offered a contract. The one man I think would be, if there's one person who I think would really benefit the Patriots, I think it's Derek Carr. As we've mentioned, someone who can come in and just protect the ball and run a scheme. I think it's the perfect quarterback for the Patriots.
Maybe. They're not having him though, so.
No, I agree. And if they do,
not without paying a king's ransom.
It's that thing where the most successful, it happens in every sport. If Ferrari come to you in Formula One and say, we want you a driver, you get a massive compensation. If you get if Man United, Barcelona or Real Madrid come to you, you double the price. And it's exactly the same thing with the Patriots. Oh, you want it? We don't want a second, we want 3 first. That's what we want. Exactly. So I think it'll be interesting to see what happens. But if they drop Carr, because I think he's on the last year of his deal, it wouldn't surprise me if they trade something mid-season for him and maybe give you a defensive linebacker or something like that.
We'll see. But I mean, there's still plenty of quarterbacks out there at the minute. So you know, I think they'll exhaust all their opportunities before looking to trade for somebody. So it'll be interesting, certainly with the Patriots. Like I said, I personally think they're gonna struggle next year. I know you guys are saying system and all the rest of it, but yeah, you've had the same quarterback for basically 20 years.
Mm-hmm. I don't think they're going to be double digit. I think they're good enough to, without any shadow of doubt, they're good enough to win enough games to be in contention for a wild card spot. I don't think for 1 second they'll win their division anymore. I think
have we got the expanded playoffs next season, or is that the season after? It's next season. That might be the only way they get in, is if they're that number 8 seed or 7 seed, whatever it is now.
Yeah. No, I agree. I don't think they're going to be a bad team. I don't, because a team in transition in the NFL normally, you're happy if you scrape 6 or 7 wins. I think they're better than that. They've got more in them than that.
Oh, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah,
depends what they draft as well.
Well, they draft badly.
Exactly. So you know, and we'll see. I mean,
I've got breaking news. Got breaking
news.
The Steelers just signed Eric Ebron to a 2-year, $12 million deal.
Who did?
The Steelers.
Steelers have signed Eric Ebron that can't catch a ball.
Hey,
Ebron's all right.
Our tight end issues are over.
Eric really? You're saying Eric Ebron's the answer to your tight end issues?
All my problems are
that's
over.
The start of your tight end issues, to be honest.
To be honest,
you got Jason Witten, mate. Pipe down.
No, he's gone.
No, he hasn't.
There he is. Let's move on to another team then. Let's talk about the Chicago Bears. Another terrible year. And they've
Bears?
Yeah, they've traded for Nick Foles from the Jacksonville Jaguars and a 4th round pick for him as well, and picking up the contract. So
now you know what? I don't hate that.
Fancy Foles.
I don't think that's bad. The one thing that made me set up and take notice of the Bears was signing Jimmy Graham to a 2-year, $16 million deal.
Well,
Jimmy Graham hasn't done anything in about 5 years.
No.
Yeah.
That's 9 million guaranteed as well on that contract.
Yeah, exactly.
The thing is, they've done a few bits of business which are either really good or terrible. I mean, that is the Bears.
There's no middle ground, is there? You know,
No.
Robert Quinn as well. He's
That's
another
a
one.
5-year, $70 million deal, apparently.
I mean,
he's a good player, but is he that? The money makes it not good, right?
No. I mean, the best
The money makes it
best
questionable at best.
The best bit of business that they've done is re-signing Danny Trevathan. That's the best bit of business they've done.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Easily. I mean, it was 3 years, 20, 22, 23 million for 3 years. I mean, that's really, really well. He must love that city. He really must, because he can get a lot of money elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, but that Foles move is a little bit weird. I mean, it's only 1 year since the Jags paid all that money for him to come over, and what's probably even more surprising is that they're thinking about sticking with Minshew as their starter, who, although he had a good start, he played about 5 really good games, and then he had 6 or 7 really bad games after that. So I'm surprised there's players out like Cam that maybe would be a good fit down there.
No, they won't stick with Minshew.
I can't. They're going to pick somebody up, whether it's free agent or draft. They'll pick somebody.
Jameis Winston.
Possibly. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. That's my 2 pennies worth. I think they'll go Jameis Winston. I know a Jags fan. I was talking to him last night, and he really wants Winston because it's boom or bust. Why not? It's fun to watch him. Jags aren't going to do anything next season, so why not have a bit of fun? Sign him. Why not? Seriously, why not? Yeah, I mean, the thing is,
I don't disagree. If you're going to suck, you might as well be interesting when you suck.
Oh yeah,
you know?
suck spectacularly. That's what you want to do.
Yeah.
They're still eating about $16.5 million worth of $16.5 million worth of Foles' money, though. The problem is they're having to clear a lot of space. Now, from a cap perspective, I still don't think they're in the right position to be able to go out and sign a quarterback. So they're going to have to continue to remove that level of, remove that cap space, because of all the players that they've got rid of, so they got rid of Boye, they got rid of Campbell, they got rid of Foles, they still have enough money to make one half decent free agent signing and then all of their draft space, because I mean there were $3 million over next year's cap space, so they still don't have enough to be able to go out and sign a decent quarterback, because there just isn't the space there. So they're having to continue trading players out. It's not a great position to be in, but as soon as they have that cap space, I have no doubt that they'll sign Cam. No doubt whatsoever.
Let's talk about another team that aren't going anywhere. The Dallas Cowboys. They've agreed a 5-year, $100 million deal for Amari Cooper. That includes $60 million guaranteed money. Apparently, the Redskins offered more, but he decided to stay in Dallas. And they've also picked.
It's a bit warmer in Dallas.
On a 1-year, $4 million deal. Dix was the Bears last year after being drafted by the Packers. So, but this is the team that's got it ass backwards always. You know, they splash out on Ezekiel Elliott, who's a running back, when they haven't sorted Dak out, and they've had to now give Amari a $100 million deal. So I don't know where all this money is going to come from, but they should have sorted out Dak rather than Zeke.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, they franchise tagged him, so they've got a year's grace. But you know, it's not ideal when, like you say, you're throwing money at your running back and your wide receiver, and you haven't actually got your quarterback tied down to anything. Now, I think the Cowboys, they've pretty much signed one player in every single position, haven't they? Because, you know, you look at the list and you've got, you know, Anthony Brown, Clinton Dix, Amari Cooper, Kai Forbath, Blake Jarwin, Sean Lee's re-signed, Joe Looney, Gerald McCoy, Darian Thompson. You know, they're just going out and throwing money around, but they're not giving it to their quarterback.
The issue is the players that they've lost. They haven't really replaced them with any value. For me, they've lost too much defensively and not replaced it. Next season, they are going to be a team that are going to win by going toe-to-toe and outscoring you. And I don't think Dak is good enough to do that.
I think the Cowboys are exactly the same next year as they were this year. They'll win a few, they'll lose a few. they'll lose to some teams that they should beat, and they'll beat some teams they should lose to.
They're not
last
just
year,
Garrett anymore to throw those excuses on, though, are they? So they might win a couple more.
I mean,
oh, Jerry's always got the excuses lined up, you know. And you've got a first-year head coach in there in McCarthy, so it's going to be a case of we're just turning over the playing roster until we get the players that the coach wants. There's your built-in excuse straight away.
The problem is they're losing talent and not replacing them.
No, absolutely, they're doing it backwards.
The secondary now looks a bit. I mean, in recent years, Dallas's strength has always been the lines, defensive and offensive, always been good. The secondary and the fact that they can put points on the board. They've lost the secondary. The line's getting older and older and not being replaced. And defensively, the pressure now is coming from the linebackers. Sean Lee's no longer. I mean, he's been pretty much replaced by Van Der Esch now. I mean, he's there as a goodwill gesture. It's just a bit of a reach around from Jerry. I don't see them being as strong next season as they've been. I mean, if I'm an Eagles fan, I am delighted. And if it had been anyone other than the Redskins or anyone not in their division that was offering Cooper a decent contract, I think they probably would have let go. The fact that they didn't, and the fact that they offered him such a big deal, was because he was going to be staying in the same division. In terms of receiving core, I think they're very, very good. I really like their receiving core. I just don't necessarily think that Dak is worth it. And I think for them, there was a lot of speculation going on for a long time about what they were going to do with Dak. I think they offered him what they were going to be paying him altogether. I think it's 29, 31 million or something like that. They basically offered him what the franchise tag is worth. He said no. And they've gone, fine, well, that's what you're going to get. So there was a lot of speculation. What are they going to do with Dak? Are they going to offer him new deals? I think for them, it was perfectly straightforward. This is what we've offered you. This is what we think you're worth. That's it. And that's what they've offered him.
And that just shoots them in the foot even more, because it means next year they're looking for a quarterback.
Unless they tag him again. I mean, it happened to Kirk Cousins in Washington.
Yeah, no, it did. It can happen, but I'm not sure unless they get a deal done. I'd say this year. I'd be surprised if Dak was still there next year.
Does it happen though, where you franchise tag someone and then you sign a new deal? Because typically, if you franchise tag someone, you stay on that tag for pretty much the entire year, right?
Yeah, but that's because usually teams don't like to negotiate contracts during the season because distraction, etc., etc. So you're perfectly within your rights to do a new deal at any point you like, and at that point the tag gets replaced with the 5-year contract or whatever.
Let's move on. Let's go on to the Saints. First, they've re-signed old man Drew Brees to a 2-year, roughly $50 million deal, I believe. That happened on Tuesday. So there was some speculation. Obviously, he's 41. Whether he'd keep going. He has decided to keep going, and the Saints are willing to ride him into the sunset. They let Teddy Bridgewater go to the Panthers on a 3-year contract, $60 million, I think he got from them. But yeah, they're all in now on Drew Brees with Taysom Hill as the backup quarterback for the time being. And they've also picked up Malcolm Jenkins. So he's finally left.
That's exciting.
They didn't exercise his option for the 2020 season. So he had 1 season left, I think, on his $35 million contract in Philadelphia. Jenkins, who's 32, he's earned all 3 of his career Pro Bowl selections. He's got 2-time Super Bowl champion and was selected back by the Saints in the 2009 draft. I think it was 14th overall. So he's back home. Pretty good move, I guess, for the Saints. They had a bit of a shaky safety group.
Well, to be fair, it's a pretty good move for Malcolm Jenkins as well. 4 years at 32 and 32 million contract with 16 guaranteed is, that's good money at that age.
Yeah.
He's laughing.
I mean, the 16 is guaranteed, but most of it is front loaded. So if they need to, they can get out of it next year without it costing them too much.
Well, I mean, he's 32 and a safety. The odds are he's not playing more than 2 years of that contract.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
And the Saints are going to have to go and pick up a quarterback at some point in the draft. because there's nowhere on this planet I can see him going into the season with just Drew Brees and Taysom Hill.
They can pick up I don't think they'll draft a quarterback. I think
Do
they'll pick up.
you not think now's the time to draft Drew Brees' replacement?
The time was 2 years ago.
Do you think that they? First of all, I don't think they have the draft capital, and secondly, I think that they think they've got his replacement, Taysom Hill. I genuinely think that they like him. I don't.
No, I'm not drinking that Kool-Aid yet.
No,
No
thank you.
chance.
They've got a first round tender on him though. First round, no one's paying that.
First round tender on him. No one's going to pick him up, but not as a quarterback anyway. They might pick him up as a wide receiver or a running back.
Tight end.
Tight end, punt returner,
really
kicker,
fun to
maybe.
watch. It's very fun to watch. I'll give him that. But yeah, it's just a bit of a weird one. I don't see them drafting anyone. I mean, they've only got 6 picks in this draft. They've got no second round or one in all the others.
In that case, they're going to have to go out into free agency and pick themselves up another quarterback.
Yeah, I agree. I think
So, you could end up with a Blake Bortles there or something.
Yeah, it will be a Bortles. It will be a Bradley Allen. It will be who's the lad you had? Glennon. It'll be someone like Mike Glennon. Someone like that. It won't be anyone else.
No.
Mostly because they don't have the cap space for it either. But good news is they got rid of Eli Apple. I mean, I wouldn't want him in my team. Christ, could you imagine that?
Yeah, of course you would. Oh, it's terrible. Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah.
Let's move on to another team. Let's talk about the Atlanta Falcons, who've just picked up Todd Gurley on a 1-year deal. So he's returned back to Georgia, where he played at college. I mean, Todd Gurley exceeded 1,000 yards 3 times in his 5-year career. He also had over 500 yards receiving twice in his career. He was due to receive 10.5 million, I think, today from the Rams if he had moved on. So not surprised there. But it's only 2 years after they signed him to a $60 million extension. So well done, Les Snead, on overpaying for a running back.
I don't think it's well done for overpaying on a running back. I think it's just unlucky that Gurley suffered the injuries that he has, and that he's not come back. He's just not been fit since the middle of the season prior to last. So you have to get out of that contract as quickly as you can, and this is the first opportunity they've had to do that.
Yeah, but they haven't got out of it because they're still paying him a huge amount. They're still a huge amount of that contract. I think the big benefit to the Falcons is that this is really low risk. Freeman got released. Yeah, it's 1 year. I can't remember exactly how much they're paying him. I think their big benefit is going to be that they've got a lot of year 2 linemen, which is really going to help as well. I think it's a good move for everyone. It's a good move for everyone, including the Rams. I don't see there being a downside to this at all.
No, I don't.
The only problem is going to be I don't know who the backup running back is in Atlanta, but there's a fairly good chance he's going to have a heavy workload.
They finally moved on to Devonta Freeman as well, haven't they? So he's not there anymore.
That was a big contract come to an end as well. I think they were more than happy to eat a little bit of that contract just to get out of it.
And the other move that the Falcons made really was picking up Hayden Hurst from the Ravens at tight end.
Yes.
But I think they got fleeced a little bit on that. They had to give up a second and a 5th round.
He was a first round pick, 2 years ago? So he's still on his rookie deal. He's not earning very much whatsoever. They're only going to probably get 1 year. You're only really going to get 1 year on his rookie deal. They're going to have to re-sign him. But as that dual threat that he had on the other side with Mark Andrews, I think it's a great signing. Obviously, they've lost Austin Hooper, so they had to replace that big receiver block as well. So for me, it makes sense. It's almost like for like. I think Hayden Hurst is better than Austin Hooper, though.
Yeah, but Hooper's gone, hasn't he? So there's a move up slightly there, but
yeah. And they've still got a second rounder. They've got a first, second, third, and 2 fourths, and then a 7th. So they've still got a second rounder. So they haven't completely given it up.
I've got more breaking Steelers news here. So they've actually done a trade with the Ravens.
Oh, okay. I mean, keep your enemies close.
apparently they're picking up defensive lineman Chris Wormley, and they're giving up a 2021 fifth and seventh round pick. So
Okay.
that makes sense as we've moved on Javon Hargrave that we're putting Chris Wormley in there instead and just giving up 2 lower round picks next year. So
Yeah,
I'm not overly mad about that. Sorry, but we'll move back to that was kind of Ravens-ish first, so it all fits in. Let's talk about Rams quickly then. So they've released Clay Matthews after 1 year of playing in the Packers. Guess they're moving everyone now, aren't they? Their window. Are we saying they're officially closed now as a window for Super Bowl?
No. I think they're still in with half a chance. I think they're one of those teams. If they go into the playoffs on a little bit of form and carrying it on with a little bit of luck, maybe. I don't think they're one of the favourites though, but they've still got good players in there.
How do they make the playoffs? How do they make it in that division? How do they get out of that division?
They could be one of the main beneficiaries of the extra team getting through. Because last year, it was between the Steelers and the Rams as to who would have got that extra spot. I know it would have been the Steelers in the end, but the Rams would have been the other team on the other side. So there's a fairly good chance. So the AFC team would have been the Steelers, NFC team would have been the Rams. They would have been the 2 extra teams either side. So that's how they would have got out. And last season they lost games they shouldn't have lost. So
but they did lose them, and they're a weakened side now.
I mean,
yeah, but it's not always necessarily about the strength of the side, is it? It's as much about the coaching, and like Dave was saying, once you're in the playoffs, anything can happen.
Yeah, it normally doesn't. I mean, there's that. Was it 12.5% of teams who make the playoffs? 12.5% of teams who make the playoff via the wild card get to the Super Bowl. I suspect for the extra team, that percentage is going to be even lower. So the chances of them making the Super Bowl are pretty low, and it doesn't help them that they're in a much tougher division than they've been in recent years.
Yeah, they are in a tough division, but they've still got a decent core of players.
Yeah, absolutely.
They haven't suddenly become the Jags.
No, I agree. But that team's only going to get worse and worse because Cooper Kupp in this year is earning 1.2 million or something. He's going to need a new contract. I mean, we ran through this already a number of times. Their team is only going to get worse and worse and worse and worse. So every year, their chance of reaching the playoffs and reaching the Super Bowl gets diluted. I mean, but their offensive line last year was a big issue, and this year they're going to be a lot better on the offensive line. They can't be worse. They really can't. But I don't know who their backup running back is, because obviously it was C.J. Anderson. He wasn't there last year.
I can't remember his name. He played last season, didn't he? 5 or 6 games, and he was all right actually. He looked pretty good, but I can't for the life of me think what his name is.
It was Malcolm Brown, I think, and Darrell Henderson.
I think it was Henderson. He looked all right.
But
I mean, they haven't done a huge amount in free agency either, have they? The Rams. I mean, they've re-signed Whitworth and signed Leonard Floyd, and that's about it really. There's not a huge amount going on.
That Whitworth signing is weird, quite frankly. I mean, he's what, 38?
Something like that,
isn't it, I suppose.
And they signed a 3-year deal. Now, I'm not being funny. I don't want a 38-year-old offensive left tackle on a 3-year deal when 13 million of it is guaranteed.
Yeah.
Insane. Absolutely insane.
But it's the Rams for
tax
you.
break.
Yeah. Yeah, well.
One last quick bit of NFC news then before we go on to the AFC teams. And the Lions picked up Jerron Harmon from the Patriots and a 7th round pick. And they got the Patriots got a 5th round pick back for it. So Jerron Harmon's been there for a long time with the Patriots, and to only get a 5th round pick for him, I guess, is a little bit of a clearing of the decks.
How much of that was a favour, do you reckon?
Well, maybe helps that Patricia.
Well, they picked up Collins as well, didn't they? So
yeah,
it might be kind of a bit of a nod there. I don't know. We'll see.
let's go on to bigger names then. Let's go to the AFC with the Indianapolis Colts, and they picked up Philip Rivers on a one-year deal worth $25 million. What do we reckon, guys? I mean, this seems like a stopgap to me. He looked pretty washed up last year.
Yeah.
Oh no, he is a stopgap. Don't get me wrong; he's definitely a stopgap, but he's not the worst stopgap in the world.
No.
You know, the thing with the thing with Rivers at the Chargers is that a lot of his routes and the receiver routes are timing routes. So it only takes for one of the receivers to be a millisecond late, and he's thrown an interception. So quite actually more than most quarterbacks, Rivers actually is made to look worse by his wide receivers at the time. So I don't think it's a terrible deal. I think the Colts is nice and safe for him. They've got a good O-line. They've got a good receiving core. You know, I think if for Philip Rivers, I think it's probably the best landing spot he could have had.
It's one of the safest, yeah, in terms of not getting hit. But,
and you know, for both sides, it's 1 year, $25 million. See what happens.
Fair dues. Slightly worse move I think they made was giving up the 13th pick in the draft for DeForest Buckner from the 49ers. Now, don't get me wrong, DeForest Buckner is a quality player, but to give up the 13th pick overall, it seems a bit rich for me. I mean, he was the 8th pick 4 years ago. So it's
when you look at the whole DeAndre Hopkins and what he went for, then yes, you know, it's definitely
can't look through that lens, Punk. I mean, you know, everyone looks.
Well, of course you can. It's a first round top 10 talent, but you know, for this you're actually having to give up your first round pick.
Hmm.
So, you know,
when you look at the,
I'll agree with you. I think Buckner's a great player, but
I think if it's the first rounder and it's a mid-20s, then you go in, okay. I mean, Buckner plays 85% of all snaps at 100 miles an hour. And it's not as though he played. It's the same with Malcolm Jenkins as well. A couple of years ago, Malcolm Jenkins. But he played almost every snap, and he'd always impact the play. No matter what happens, he'd always impact the play. So if it's a mid-20s, you're looking at going, okay, that's about right. It's a par. The only reason we think they've overreached slightly is because it's a 13, 14 pick or something like that. That's the only reason. So on that basis, I'm okay
what would you want? Let's take DeForest Buckner out of the equation for a second. What do the Colts want to pick up at number 13? They probably want to pick up a defensive tackle.
I agree.
So instead of picking up a rookie defensive tackle, what they've done is they've said, well, we might as well pick up one of the premier defensive tackles in the game at the minute, and not worry about having a rookie come in and stink the place out.
And the Chargers.
Colts.
The Colts are notoriously conservative when it comes to drafting anyway. So They're not going to move. They would have picked someone up. I agree. I think it's fine. The only reason we think it's a bit rich is because they're picking 13. That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
I think
That's all I'm saying.
If DeForest Buckner was a rookie, came out and did what DeForest Buckner's done the last few years, you'd be praising it and going, what a great pick.
He's only, 26, 27?
Yeah, exactly. They've got at least 4 or 5 years out.
I think it's a perfectly good sign. I think there's nothing wrong with it whatsoever.
No.
He's not going to be banging the drum for a new contract. They know exactly what they're getting. It improves their lines. Their offensive line is superb. Catanzaro re-signed the contract. I think that's big for them. I think it only makes them stronger. So absolutely, yeah.
I think the only thing that possibly, just going back to Phil Rivers for a second, that the Colts might want to look at try and pick up is a tight end. I think they could do with a bit of an improvement at tight end and just give Rivers loves a tight end, so just give him someone nice and big
Eric Ebron anymore for them
and move the chains.
No, Eric Ebron's obviously not being there. I think the thing is, for years, Rivers has always had a running back who will catch the ball. So we saw Eckler last year. Gordon's pretty good at catching the ball. I'm not massively keen on Marlon Mack as a receiving back. He tends to stab at the ball with his hands too much. So it wouldn't surprise me if they go and pick out, as you say, a tight end, but also a receiving back of some sort. So
yeah, that would make sense.
I think there was a guy who the Broncos had last year on IR, and I can't remember who it was. He was at the Lions. the season before, and I can't remember who it was.
Abdullah?
Yeah, receiving backs are available. Sorry?
Was it Abdullah?
No, it wasn't. But yeah, so there are receiving backs available. So it wouldn't surprise me if we see that kind of deal happening in free agency as well.
Let's move on then to a team that always does a lot of stuff in the off-season, and that's the Cleveland Browns. They've signed Case Keenum to a 3-year, $18 million deal. Includes $10 million in guaranteed money. I guess that means that Baker's on a leash after come down last year.
No, it doesn't.
What do you reckon, Punk? Good move?
Yeah. Well, it's a Cleveland move, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those. Let's throw some money in and see if it sticks. It's not terrible, is it? As a backup, he's fine. The one I think that kind of makes me think, hang on a minute, they might have got that one right, is Conklin.
Yeah,
I'm not
3-year,
sure.
$42 million deal from the Titans.
I think it's the 30 million guaranteed that I find an issue with, and they need multiple players on that offensive line because it was terrible.
Well, the problem with Conklin was his injury history the last year and a bit. I think
that's the thing, isn't it? If he stays fit and plays all 17 games, then
16.
Still 16 next season, is it? I don't know. As long as he plays multiple games in the teens, then he earns his money. If he only plays 7 games a season, then it's pretty much a waste of time for everybody.
Yeah, and I think that when you look at Conklin, he's very, very good at blocking for a running back. I mean, we obviously saw that last season. Played all 16 games last season, but how many times did we see him have a reduced number of snaps? He's only young. I mean, he's what, 24, 25, 26? He's mid-20s.
Like yeah.
So he has the ability to be there for years and years and years and be the next. I mean, he has the ability to be the next Joe
Thomas.
I was thinking Joe Brown. It's not Joe Brown. He has the ability to be the next Joe Thomas, but it's that ability to play every snap that's going to be an issue. And I'm not entirely sure because we saw it when he was at Michigan State. The amount of times again he didn't complete games. But yeah, best of luck because they need help on that line.
I was just going to say the Keenum thing was relatively obvious because obviously Stefanski was the OC in Minnesota a couple of years ago when Keenum was throwing it into the championship game. So that does make a lot of sense.
It wasn't. It was Pat Shermer.
Well, Stefanski was there, just wasn't the OC, right?
He was there, but he wasn't the offensive coordinator.
All right, he was still part of the offensive crew, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, how are we rating Stefanski's free agent movements so far? Because they've overpaid for a few players. So they put a second-round defender on Kareem Hunt, so it looks as though they're going to be paying him a decent amount. And obviously that Austin Hooper trade, $23 million guaranteed. He's now the highest paid tight end. I mean, is he in the top 5 tight ends?
Nope.
No.
Wouldn't have said so.
Of course, it's an overpay. They look at the stats. That's someone who looks at the numbers rather than looks at the actual games and what Austin Hooper actually produces.
Yeah. I mean, the issue was last year he was in an offense where he was the main beneficiary of not being covered. He was on single coverage constantly. It looks as though the Browns are going to be keeping Hooper and they're going to be keeping Thingy Luck on the other side. So it makes sense now that they're going to have 2 tight ends. Sorry?
Njoku you're talking about as the other tight end.
So they're going to have Njoku one side, Hooper the other side, Landry one side, OBJ the other side. There are now no excuses. And they've got a better offensive line. There are no excuses.
They're also going to stick Chubb and Hunt in the backfield with Janovich and just pound the ball down people's throats because that's the one thing they could do last year was run the ball. So you stick a fullback in there as well with one of those other two and bang. That's I think what they tried to do last year was air it out too much. Suddenly realised that Mayfield couldn't do it on a consistent basis, so you revert back to the running game. So I think this year what they're going to do is they're going to start off with the running game and then actually maybe move out to the throwing game when he's kind of proven himself again.
I agree that that's what they should do. I don't think that they can. When you've got OBJ in your outfield, I don't think you can do that.
He won't let you.
You have to almost become. I mean, that makes me feel sick.
What? Melvin Gordon in a Broncos uniform.
Yeah. Is that actually legit?
That's actually legit.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
That's not, is it?
It's Melvin Gordon.
Oh, yeah, you signed him. 2 years, $16
Melvin
million
Gordon's
deal.
just literally this second signed with the Broncos.
How much?
16 mil for 2 years.
How much?
2 years, 16 mil. That's not bad.
Breaking news there. No, it's not. It's just the issue is I really like Royce Freeman, and now this means Freeman's going to be on the market.
Does it, or does it mean that he's just going to sit behind Gordon until Gordon messes up again and fumbles and does all that?
No, it means that he's going to go because Philip Lindsay is going to be sitting behind Gordon, and Philip Lindsay is earning £1.90 this year. Literally, he's earning nothing. He's 580 grand. He's earning the league minimum for running backs. When the new CBA was announced, the Broncos representative was Brandon McManus, and in an interview, Brandon McManus said that the only player out of the Broncos who was really happy was Philip Lindsay, because now the minimum payment's going up. It means he gets a pay rise.
He gets a pay rise.
But yeah, I don't like that. I don't like players who hold out, and he's obviously a player that's held out. So it does make it interesting when we play the Chargers, though, because Harris has gone that way, and we've got Gordon. So yeah, bittersweet. I'm not sure about that.
Let's move on to another team then. Let's talk about the Miami Dolphins, who've got a lot invested in the draft this year, but hasn't stopped them from spending some of the massive amount of cap space they've got. Kyle Van Noy, first of all, an ex-Flores player for the Patriots. He's gone on a 4-year, $51 million deal. Only 28 years old, so he's one of the better players for the Patriots. They've also
they've overpaid a little bit.
Well, possibly, but you want to make some moves. And Byron Jones is an even bigger move from the Cowboys at cornerback. That is a massive deal. It's about 18 million, I think they've gone on that one.
82 million. That includes 54.5 guarantees.
That's it. That's huge.
That's 5 years, 54.5 guaranteed. So it's not too bad over the life of the contract, but if it's front loaded, definitely.
And they've also picked up Jordan Howard at running back from the Eagles. So we know they traded away all of their running backs last year, including Kenyon Drake. So good to get someone back. Yeah,
I mean, they needed help. When we did our highs and lows, surprisingly good podcast, we mentioned the fact that their best rusher last season was the quarterback. The 200 and something yards. They need help on the run, and that's not just the running back. They need help on the line as well. So again, they will, in the first round, they will be drafting an offensive lineman. There's no shadow of a doubt about that.
I've got 3 more moves to talk about. First of all, Texans. Then they've picked up Randall Cobb from the Cowboys, 3-year, $27 million deal. Guess it's not replacing DeAndre Hopkins, but it's something.
I mean, you don't say.
Titans have picked up former Atlanta Falcons defensive end Vic Beasley. So 1 year, $9.5 million contract. Vic was good, but fell off a bit the last couple of years. So no, that's not really replacing Jarrell Casey either.
No.
Nice.
What a signing that was.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what the game plan is for the Texans. None of what they've done so far seems to make much sense.
No.
I mean, the only thing that I can say is that they've really mortgaged a lot on having the best quarterback that they can get and protecting him with a left tackle. And they have to pay. They're going to have to pay Deshaun Watson money next year. They're going to have to, because this year he's only going to be earning about $5 million.
Unless he forces a trade.
I don't see that. Well, all he has to do, by the sound of it, is act like a dick, and he'll get chucked out of the building. So why not?
Dick
I'll
mode
take
initiated.
swap Sean Watson for Derek Carr. There we go.
They've still got the same issues that they've got. Like they had last season. Their only deep threat now is Will Fuller, and of course he plays fewer NFL games than me. He's always injured. They have to pick up a wide receiver, but of course, because due to the unique way that they manage,
They did. They picked up Randall Cobb.
Yeah.
No, they need a deep threat. They need a real deep threat. But due to the unique way that they handle their affairs, they've got no first-round draft again, no first-round draft pick next year, but they've got 2 second and a third. So they're going to have to be smart in the way that they pick people up. And the other thing that they did is handing Bradley Roby a new contract. I mean, I have a fondness to Bradley Roby, but not to the amount that they're going to be paying him. It's ridiculous how much they're paying him. So,
last thing I wanted to mention, guys, was that I've saved one of the big ones for last, and that is that the Ravens had to give up a 5th round pick to acquire 5-time Pro Bowler Calais Campbell. Although he's 33 years old, he did have 56 tackles, 6.5 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles last year. So, despite being on a trash Jags team, he was still at least.
I think it's a decent pickup as a short-term thing, isn't it? It's Campbell's been one of the premier DNs for the last 6-7 years.
Yep.
So it's probably. I mean, I don't know the money involved, but it's probably a bit of a win-win in that he's getting a bit of a payday and possibly a chance at a playoff run with a team that actually, as long as they haven't been found out, should be doing there or thereabouts.
I don't think they have. I mean, the thing with the Ravens is they are dynamic in what they do on offense, but their top 5 players, who are the top highest paid 5 players, are all defensive. So they're building up this ability to be playmakers on defense, and as long as they don't mess up, then they'll be fine. I think the AFC is now there's now 2 elite teams in the AFC. We obviously know who both of those 2 are.
Obviously it's the Raiders and the Raiderettes.
Obviously.
More speed of the Raiderettes.
Campbell was always going to be going. Campbell was always going to be going from the Jags because they needed to build up that cap space. He's a Denver lad. We went in for him last year. By all accounts, we went in this year as well. But we offered 11.5. They offered 15, so we went there. Obviously, there's more chance of him winning a Super Bowl in Baltimore than there is in Denver as well. So,
sadly, so yeah.
It is a good move for everyone all round. But it makes the Jags significantly weaker, and they haven't replaced them.
No, and also they've got Yannick Ngakoue, who they've tagged, but they're expecting to get traded. They're hoping for a first, I think, which is maybe an ask.
I heard that the Packers offered a second, and that was rejected. So I think there's a second on the table for him. But it always feels like a bit of a shit thing to do, to tag someone and then trade them. It always just feels like a bit of a shyster move, which I don't like. But I can see why they're doing it.
That's the Jags for you, baby.
Yeah, maybe. Well, they'll be our team soon.
Yeah. And also, Marshall Yonder retired this week as well. So there's a first ballot Hall of Famer that I don't have to worry about him losing anymore. Right, well, guys, I think we've pretty much caught up on all the big news that have happened in free agency. Have I missed anything? You guys wanted to mention any other trades that we haven't talked about, or retirements, releases? I don't know.
I mean, we briefly met the big ones are the Stephon Diggs trade. I mean, we mentioned that in passing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been so many. The weird one was the Patriots tagging Joe Tunney. It's a bit weird. I mean, I don't think he's that good.
It's just been there forever, isn't it? It's just one of those things where everyone else is
I
leaving,
was
like
gonna say,
Hanoi and
is it one of those things where he wants to go? Because I mean, they could have, rather than giving Devon McCourtney a new contract, they could have tagged him instead and saved himself about 10 million quid. It just seems a bit of a weird one to tag him. When he came out, he wasn't the news I was expecting. But yeah, I think we've covered most things. There's still.
I think you've
things
missed the
going on.
biggest one of all, though. That is Colt McCoy going to the Giants. I mean, that if ever there's a signing that's going to set the league alight, it's Colt McCoy moving from Washington to New York.
Well, talking to the Giants, James Bradbury went there on a big contract, and Blake Martinez has gone there as well. So, and I've obviously tagged Leonard Williams. So, but there's a team with more holes than the calendar. It'll be interesting to see what Daniel Jones and who's the offensive coordinator now? It's Cowboys gaffer from last year. So
Jason Garrett.
Yeah, Jason Garrett. It'll be interesting to see what that mix can do. I mean,
it's showtime, baby.
Yeah,
You're Hollywood.
Those press conferences afterwards are going to be filled with jokes and joy. I mean, wow. But yeah, it's interesting times in New York for both teams. I think both teams have been in transition for a few years, and it's about time they step forward.
Well, Jets have got a chance.
Jets especially should be looking to take a big step forward this year.
Well, they've signed 2 offensive linemen. One of them was ours. When you sign an offensive line player from the Broncos, you're in trouble. They signed Connor McGovern. So we offered Connor McGovern about $8.5 million. The Jets came in and offered him $27 million.
I can see why he picked to go to the Jets.
Yeah,
nicer right. City as well, New Jersey. You
know? No, it's not. It's not. But yeah, no.
That Melvin Gordon news is pretty good there, Dave. You've now made him the 4th most highest paid running back in the league. So
excellent. So he's happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, listen. You know what? I really, really hope he's out in the backfield. There's 1 minute to go in a game, and there's a ball just looped up in the air, and it's him versus Chris Harris. I don't care who wins it. I just want to see that moment with the 2 players going. And then all of a sudden, he just traps it against his head. That's what I want to see.
I'm just thinking incomplete pass the whole way.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it's called for an illegal forward pass.
All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for coming on Punk. Thank you so much, man. Finally,
you're welcome, man.
In front of a camera.
I know. Unfortunately, I have bills to pay, and no one wanted to fulfill my contract with Jim and the King. So I had to go to work a lot of this season.
If anyone can Venmo him some money or something, then please do so.
Sorry, PayPal the details at the bottom of the podcast.
Yeah, we can do a GoFundMe.
GoFundMe for yeah. You never know.
Yeah,
maybe by depending how the self-isolation goes. Obviously, it's going to be another couple of weeks till we do another one. But we were that close to getting the King on the pod as well. We're that close. So maybe next time.
That close.
Really? No cigar. Yeah, we'll see how we go. But we've got another few before the draft happens. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. But I think this one worked. Hopefully the sound quality is okay. I'm sure we're about to find out when I start editing this thing. So yeah, until next time, I've been Jim. That's been Denver Dave. That's been Punk Raider. And thank you so much for listening.